You won't believe what I wore the day my son forgot I existed. Bright red. A dress that dared to be noticed. The kind of dress that said, "Look at me. Just this once." I bought it 3 weeks before Mother's Day, imagining how he'd smile, how his voice might soften just like when he was little. "Wow, Mom. You look amazing." I wanted to believe I still meant something to him. His name is Benjamin. 35 years old, successful, always in a suit, always a little late. But still my boy, at least in my mind. That morning he texted, "Lunch at 1. Same place." Nothing fancy. No heart emoji. Just logistics. But I clung to that message like it was a love letter. I got to Romano's early. 15 minutes early like always. The staff knew us. They smiled like they always did. Sat me by the window, where sunlight made everything look more hopeful than it really was. The place was alive. Families everywhere, kids climbing over booths, moms unwrapping gifts, laughter bouncing off walls. Smelled like celebration. And I sat there. In that red dress. In that hope. 1 o'clock came. Nothing. 1:10. Still nothing. At 1:30 I ordered the salmon. His favorite. Not because I wanted it, but because I still believed maybe he'd walk in, apologize and say, "Let's share." Like we used to. I looked around. Saw a mother at the next table opening a jewelry box. Her daughter beaming beside her. That mom looked loved. I just looked, alone. The waitress came over. "Would you like more water?" "My son's just running late," I said. I lied with a straight face. Years of practice. Then I opened Instagram. And saw the truth. A photo of Benjamin. Big smile. At another restaurant. Expensive, trendy. Not with me. With her. Christine. His stepmom. Captioned. "Lunch with my real mom. Blessed. Real mom." That's when the phone slipped from my hand and hit the table with a thud. And something inside me cracked. The sound of my phone hitting the table turned heads. People glanced over, curious at first, then unsure. Reading my face, reading the silence, trying to decide if they should look away or offer help. But no one came. Not even him. I stared at the screen again. Those words. "Real mom." It echoed louder than any clinking glass or laughing child in that restaurant. 35 years. 3 decades of scraped knees, science projects, broken hearts, flu seasons, bedtime stories, and late-night pickups from parties he wasn't supposed to be at. And now he posts a filtered photo and calls her the real one. Rosa, the waitress, came over. Gentle voice, soft eyes. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," I lied again. It was easier than saying what was true. That I'd never felt more invisible. Paid the bill. Left a big tip. Not because I was generous, but because Rosa had offered more kindness in 1 hour than my son had in months. The walk to my car felt like it took days. Every step dragging the weight of that post, those words, that choice. He hadn't forgotten lunch. He'd chosen not to come. That hurt in a way I didn't even know was possible. I got home and sat at my kitchen table still in that red dress, staring at last year's Mother's Day card. The last one he gave me. Generic, no message, just Ben in that hurried scrawl. A placeholder of a child. My phone buzzed. "Sorry, Mom. Got held up at work." Rain check. I stared at the screen. The audacity. He thought I didn't know. He thought I'd just swallow it again like always. He didn't know that something inside me had broken. Or maybe woken up. Type. Deleted. Typed again. Deleted again. Nothing felt right. Finally I just wrote, "I saw your post." Message read. No reply. 10 minutes passed. An hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there. Still in that dress. Watching the light shift through the window. And I realized, this wasn't sadness anymore. It was something cleaner. Sharper. Relief. Not because he hurt me but because I finally saw him clearly. And with that clarity came a decision. One I didn't plan. One that started with opening my laptop and typing, "Flights to Madrid." Madrid. The word looked strange on my screen, like something from someone else's dream. But that night it became mine. Click book now. Just like that. No dramatic goodbye. No notes. No tears. Just a silent withdrawal from a life that had stopped seeing me. 2 days later, I was on a plane with a carry-on bag, a passport, and no plans. I didn't tell Benjamin. Let him feel what silence sounds like. The flight was long, but I barely slept. Somewhere over the ocean, I looked out at the stars and realized I wasn't running away. I was finally running toward something. I landed in Madrid just before sunrise. The air smelled different, like roasted coffee and second chances. I rented a tiny apartment in a neighborhood filled with tiled streets, noisy birds, and strangers who didn't know my name or my story. Perfect. For the first week, I did nothing but be. I walked aimlessly, sat in plazas, ate pastries I couldn't pronounce. I turned off my international plan, checked my bank account and nothing else. My phone, though, kept ringing. 17 missed calls. Then 30. Then 70. Benjamin. His father. Even Christine. People I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly remembered I existed. Let them wonder. Let them feel for once what it's like when the woman who always shows up doesn't. Week 2, I found a cafe tucked into a crooked side street. Books in every language. Strong coffee. The owner, Rosa, had bright eyes and an Irish accent softened by years of living in Spain. "You here on vacation?" she asked. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I just finally left home." She smiled. "We're all temporary, love. Some of us just admit it." She became my first real friend in years. By week 3 I started writing. Not about Benjamin. Not about pain. I wrote about Madrid. The music in the alleyways, the strangers who smiled for no reason, the quiet. I wrote about the girl I'd been at 22. The one with dreams. The one who got buried beneath motherhood, marriage, and 1,000 tiny sacrifices that no one remembered but me. And every time my phone buzzed with a call from back home, I ignored it. Guilt stopped following me. Shame stopped chasing me. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was becoming someone I actually wanted to be. By the end of the first month, I'd stopped counting missed calls. My voicemail was overflowing with concern, apologies, excuses, none of which I listened to. Then one afternoon my phone buzzed with a new number. Spanish. Local. I hesitated, then answered. It was Christine. His stepmother. She'd flown to Madrid. "I need to see you," she said. Her voice was thin, anxious. "He's not okay, Margaret. Please. Just an hour." Every instinct told me to hang up. But curiosity, maybe that final ember of maternal instinct, made me say yes. We met at a hotel cafe so polished it made my old red dress look humble. Christine looked worn. The perfect hair was messy. The designer dress wrinkled. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You look different." I didn't smile. "You have 55 minutes, I replied. She flinched. "Benjamin's falling apart," she said. "Drinking too much. Losing contracts. Richard and I are worried. He's not sleeping. He says he's ruined everything." I stirred my coffee slowly. "He's not wrong." Her eyes filled with tears. "He needs his mother." I looked at her flatly. He had one. He replaced her on Instagram. Christine tried to explain. "It was never my intention to come between you two. But you didn't stop him." "No, I didn't," she whispered. "And I regret it." There was a pause. Thick one. The kind filled with things neither of us were brave enough to say years ago. Then she asked, "Can you forgive him? Please." I sighed. "Do you know what I did for 35 years, Christine? I forgave him. Every slight. Every distance. Every birthday he forgot. I made excuses for a man who called me Mom. Only when it was convenient. I stood to leave. He wants forgiveness. Then tell him he'll need to earn it. With real change. With real effort. Not just another apology sent through someone else." She reached out to stop me. "Margaret, wait." Turned. Tell him this. I love him enough to let him face the consequences of his own choices. I love him enough to make this hard. And if he ever wants to rebuild what he burned down, he knows where to find me. But I'm done being his emergency contact. And I walked out. Into the sunlight. Into my life. 1 year and 3 months after I disappeared, he found me. I was sitting in Rosa's cafe grading student essays. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet Tuesday. Then I looked up. And there he was. Cross the street. Standing like a statue made of nerves and regret. Same jawline. Same green eyes. But thinner now. Paler. His expensive suit looked like it had lost a few battles. I didn't move. Didn't smile. Didn't feel anything but. Still. He finally crossed the street. Opened the door. The bell jingled, announcing him like a storm cloud. Rosa raised an eyebrow behind the counter. That him? I nodded once. Looks like hell, she muttered. Good. Benjamin spotted me and froze, like he'd just seen a ghost. I didn't help him out. I turned a page. Kept reading Elena's essay about her dream to study in London. Mom, he said like a question. I looked up. Benjamin. He blinked. Maybe expecting me to run into his arms. Maybe still believing he had that power. Can I sit? He asked. I motioned to the chair across from me. He sat, every movement heavy. I've been trying to reach you, he said. I know. Why didn't you answer? Capped my red pen. Because I didn't want to talk to you. Honesty. Cold and clean. He flinched. Mom. I know I hurt you. No, I said. You didn't hurt me on Mother's Day. You showed me who you were. The hurt came from the years I spent pretending you were someone else. His jaw clenched. I do love you. No, I replied calmly. You love the comfort of knowing I'm always there. You love the idea of me. The convenience of me. But you've never shown love for me as a person. He looked away. Out the window. I've had a rough year. I lost contracts. The business is collapsing. Christine and Dad are splitting up. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. But I'm not your therapist. And I'm not your cleanup crew. There was a long pause. Then he said it. I want you to come home. Smiled. Not the kind he wanted. I am home, Benjamin. He stared at me like I'd just spoken a language he didn't understand. I need you, he whispered. He nodded. I know. But needing someone isn't the same as loving them. And I've spent my entire life being needed by someone who didn't know how to value what I gave. He looked shattered. Like he expected this reunion to be a healing arc. Instead, he found a woman who'd already healed without him. Send me the paperwork for the house, I said as I stood. You flew here to get my signature, right? He blinked again, caught off guard. I don't have your email. Then figure it out. Gathered my things. This isn't revenge, Benjamin. It's not punishment. Just boundaries. You'll be part of my life when you show me you can respect me. Not before. He sat there stunned. As lost as I once was. I walked out into the afternoon sun. Lighter than I'd ever felt. 3 days after he showed up in Madrid, my phone lit up with 23 missed calls. I didn't rush to check them. I was drinking coffee in my courtyard, listening to Senora Martinez upstairs doing her usual off-key opera warm-ups. 6 from Benjamin. 4 from his father. 3 from Christine. A handful from numbers I didn't recognize. 8 from someone labeled "B attorney." I deleted them all. No voicemails. No explanations. That afternoon, Elena came over for an extra English lesson. She brought sponge cakes in a paper bag. Magdalena's, she smiled. My grandma made them. She says food helps during difficult conversations. I raised an eyebrow. What makes you think I had one? She tilted her head. That look only teenagers can pull off. The kind that says, "Come on, lady, you're not fooling anyone." You've seemed different since Tuesday, she said. Stronger. But also more solid. Smiled. Solid. I liked that. He came to the cafe, I told her. The man who hurt me. Your son, she said. Yes. Did he apologize? He tried, I said. But apologies without change are just noise. We spent an hour going over English grammar, specifically the subjunctive mood, the language of ifs and maybes. If I were to move to London, Elena practiced. If my son were to change, I said quietly, I might consider forgiving him. She looked up thoughtful. But you don't think he will? No, I answered. Then you are free. Teenager. 17. And wiser than most adults I know. That evening, Rosa closed the cafe early and took me to her favorite tapas bar overlooking Plaza de Santa Ana. The lights, the music, the life. You look settled, she said, sipping wine. I feel like I've finally arrived. Where to? My own life. We clinked glasses. My phone buzzed again. Another call from the attorney. I turned it face down on the table. They're persistent, Rosa observed. They're desperate, I said. His business is failing. He needs my signature on house documents. That's why he came. She rolled her eyes. Of course it is. The next morning, I opened the door to find a well-dressed young man clutching a briefcase. Senora Waters. Yes. I'm David Glickman, attorney for Benjamin Scott. I'm here to speak about urgent legal matters. Property, taxes, the house. I started to close the door. Ma'am, please. Your son's facing serious financial risk. If you don't sign these papers, cut him off. Mr. Glickman, my son publicly declared I wasn't his real mother. He chose to replace me. He ignored me for years, and when I finally left, he only came after me because things fell apart. I am not his safety net. He blinked. But you're his mother. Yes. And real mothers teach consequences, not codependency. If you or anyone else shows up here again, I'll contact the authorities. I shut the door, turned the locks, made coffee. Then I called Rosa. They sent a lawyer to my door, I said. Bastards, she replied. Want me to call my cousin in the Guardia Civil? Not yet. But thank you. What will you do? I looked around my little home. The photos, the plants, the pages of poems I'd filled since arriving. I'm going to keep living. And if he wants to be part of that life, he knows what he needs to do. The calls continued for 2 more weeks. From Benjamin. From Richard. From Christine. From lawyers I'd never heard of. My phone became a collection of alarms I never intended to answer. I didn't block them. I just declined. It stopped suddenly like a faucet turned off. A month later, Donna, the neighbor back home, sent me an email. Margaret. Thought you'd want to know. Your house finally sold. Benjamin had to accept a lower offer because the sale was rushed. Also heard his business filed for bankruptcy. Richard and Christine are divorcing. Stress, apparently. Hope you're well. The neighborhood misses you. I read it twice. I expected guilt, maybe sadness. But all I felt was a quiet sense of confirmation. Like the universe was finally closing the door I had been too afraid to shut myself. That afternoon, Elena and I were walking through Retiro Park. She asked the question I knew was coming. Do you think you'll ever talk to him again? I took my time answering. If he ever becomes the kind of man who can own what he's done, who can show respect and real change, maybe. And if he doesn't, I smiled gently. Then I'll keep being grateful that I finally loved myself enough to walk away. We stopped by the Crystal Palace. Inside there was an art exhibit about memory and loss. Elena said something her grandmother used to tell her. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. Her grandmother was right. That night I wrote in my journal about the woman I used to be. The one who confused enabling with love. Who mistook silence for strength. Who said yes to being needed instead of being valued. And I wrote about the woman I've become. The one who teaches English by day, drinks wine with friends at night, and laughs without permission. I wrote about Benjamin, not with bitterness, but with clarity. I love him. I always will. But love without respect isn't love, it's fear. Love without boundaries is just self-erasure. And I refused to disappear again. The next morning I got a text from Rosa. Flamenco at the Tableau tonight. You free? I texted back. See, life is for living. That evening, Senora Martinez's voice soared through the courtyard, singing opera like a woman who didn't care what anyone thought. Other windows opened. Applause drifted up from balconies. Open mine too. Below, I saw Elena walking home, her head bent over her phone, probably texting that boy she liked about her dreams of London. Tomorrow I'd teach class, sip café con leche with Rosa, maybe plan a weekend trip to Segovia. Keep writing, keep living, keep becoming. Because I'm no one's emergency contact anymore. I'm no one's backup plan. I am finally fully my own. And for the first time, I know what it feels like to be somebody's real mother.